Hello, and welcome to Mike Drops the Mic. I'm Mike Lyman. Today, I'm excited to be joined with Corbin Maxey. Corbin is an animal expert, and he's rescued many animals in his lifetime. He has been on numerous TV shows, including The Today Show, Late Night with Seth Meyers, The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and many more. He's also host of Animals to the Max podcast. Corbin, how you doing today?
Doing so good. Thanks for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Thank you for coming on. And
Yeah.
I failed to mention that you also are on YouTube, and you're a big deal on YouTube. I just saw that you got your plaque from YouTube for having over 1 million subscribers to your channel. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's so weird. Now I tell people that I'm a YouTuber, which is so crazy. I feel like I could call myself a YouTuber having 1 million subs, right?
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They sent you a nice golden plaque. So that came in. And now what you're at, I think last time I checked 1.3 million.
Yeah.
So we got that number even higher now.
Yeah, it's honestly a dream come true. And YouTube, I mean, I started in 2008. So my YouTube journey has been a very long journey. So for anyone who's like listening, who's like, oh, I'll never get my channel there, like, trust me, if you put the time in, it could work for you. I promise.
Sure. Well, I'm just starting out here. So I have my Spotify and my YouTube. So I'm nowhere close to you. But man, that has to be so cool getting that gold plaque. What'd you do with it? Where's it right now?
Oh my God. So, well, do you want me to be honest? Okay, so
Yeah.
it's actually in a box because we're trying to figure out where to put it because
Yeah.
I feel like the fans would want me to put it in the alligator house. I kind of want to put it in my office. So I think we might put it in the office, but I don't know. I mean, it would be kind of cool to have it above Sonny, who's my, 10-foot American alligator. So we'll see. Stay tuned.
Yeah, of course. So, as a kid, from what I understand, you were always fascinated by wildlife. And around the age of 6 or 7, you moved to Idaho. How did this move to Idaho impact your animal passion and help you develop more of a love for wildlife?
Well, I've always been interested in animals. And Michael, I actually was born and raised in Idaho. So we moved to the cabin of southern Idaho. We moved to a cabin. And I fell in love with wildlife. I didn't have a normal childhood. So when most kids had like sidewalks and bikes and friends, like I didn't have any friends because we were isolated in a cabin. So I would just be out catching snakes and frogs and lizards and toads, and I would collect cockroaches and do like make believe animal shows. I mean, seriously, like I just was always interested in animals. I was always into talking about them. And that's really what sparked my passion, was probably living in a cabin at such a young age.
And one of these animals that you had in the animal shows was your python, Reggie. How did you come about acquiring Reggie?
Yeah, so Reggie was the first snake I ever rescued at 12 years old, and he's a ball python, which, mind you, he must be like the world's oldest ball python. He is so old. He's still living today. And yeah, and he started everything. So I rescued Reggie, and it was a time my dad and I would often go to the pet store because like going into town and to the pet store was so exciting for a kid, right? Like, do you remember the days when it was exciting to go to a pet store? I mean, it's still kind of exciting, but
Yeah.
as a kid, you're like, oh, what do they have? And I remember I overheard a man come in and say, hey, I have a ball python. And he was trying to talk to the pet store owner, and he was saying, hey, do you want this ball python? I don't want it. And the pet store owner said, no, we don't have any room. And I remember I looked at my dad and was like, oh my gosh, Dad, can we please rescue this snake? And he's like, sure. So we followed this guy back to this sketchy apartment. And I look back at it, I was like, oh my goodness, what were we doing? And that's how I got Reggie, my ball python. And I was at 12 years old, and I thought, wow, there's other reptiles that need homes. And I thought, I want to start a reptile reserve. So I started Cypress Hill Reptile Reserve. And by 13, I had over 60 different exotic animals that all ended up living in my parents' bonus room. So at the time, I'm so thankful. So my young childhood was spent in the cabin. At 12 years old, my family moved to town so we could have a somewhat normal childhood. So thank goodness. I'm so happy, like, no offense to all the other mountain people, but I'm so happy that we were in town to kind of have a normal childhood, right? And to go to
Sure.
school and stuff like that. So we had moved to town, and I had taken up my parents' bonus room with over 60 different exotic animals. And the majority of those animals were animals that people could no longer care for, that got too big, they got too aggressive, or people just really got themselves into a big pickle. They got something and realized, oh, I don't want this animal. They dumped them. And that's how I started my reptile reserve.
And when you're talking about these over 60 of these animals that you had, what were some of them that you had, and which ones would you use for these make believe animal shows that you would do at the time?
Yeah, so make believe. So I was make that's so funny. So I mean, green iguanas, red-eared sliders, tortoises, pythons. I had a piranha named Jaws, which I know is not a reptile, but he was so cool. Snapping turtles. I rescued a baby alligator. I had so much stuff. And at the time, since I had so much stuff, I actually wanted to start talking to people about my animals. So at 12, I gave my first presentation at the local YMCA that I was actually attending as a kid. Like, so I was part of the YMCA, and I was like, can I please just do a reptile show in front of people? So that was my first start doing shows actually in front of people. So I've had many years of speaking about animals in front of people, and I loved it. And I remember after that first show, I was like, oh, this is so much fun. And I would call YMCAs and say, can I please come? And I remember one YMCA gave me a $25 donation, and I was like on top. I was like on top of the moon. It felt, I went out and bought like a reptile rock bowl, which I still have today. Like, that's what I did with my first big spendings.
Hey, that's a good investment there, right?
Hey, it's still around, right? I don't know. That was years ago. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's fair to say that, both of your parents and especially your mother have had a significant impact on your life and your career as an animal expert, specifically when, from my understanding, without you knowing, your mother signed you up to be potentially on the Tonight Show. Could you talk about that story a little bit?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What a dream come true. I mean, by the way, God bless my parents. My dad's amazing, but my mom, yeah, she came across a talent scout audition for the Tonight Show. And we were huge Tonight Show fans. We'd always watch it. I mean, back in the day when people would stay up and watch, late night TV, that was the thing, right? And she saw that they were looking for teenagers with weird or unusual talents. So she like submitted me as a weird teenager. I had no idea. And I later found out what she wrote the Tonight Show, which was the best line, like the best pitch ever. She had written something and said, hi, my name is Corbin Maxey. I'm 14 years old, and I have over 60 different exotic rescued reptiles. Call me the next crocodile hunter, or just call me ... That's all she said. And it was, that's such a good pitch, right? It's like it sparks curiosity. It's short, it's not boring. And a week later, after school, 3 o'clock, I remember I got a call from an unavailable number, and I thought, this is weird. And this was back in the day when people had like home phones, which is I sound so ancient. Like, we had a home phone, right? And I answered the phone, and it was from the Tonight Show. And I thought it was a prank. I could not believe it. And fast forward, after many phone conversations, after submitting them a few other audition tapes to see if I would be fit for the show, the Tonight Show decided, you're not really going to be a good fit for the teenager segment, but can we offer you a guest spot behind a celebrity? I was like, yeah, that sounds great, right? So at 14 years old, February 9th, 2004, I was on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, my first time ever being on national TV with my animals.
And the guest was Pamela Anderson, right?
Pamela Anderson. Can you believe that? So imagine being 14. I was a freshman in high school. I was not a cool kid by any means. So like, it was so cool to be able to be on the Tonight Show, one, but to be on with Pamela Anderson. And I actually wasn't like, I got to meet Pamela backstage. She did not do the segment with me on the show, but it still was so cool to be on the same show and get to meet Pamela Anderson. I was like a 14-year-old kid.
Well, I'm sure when you went to school the next day and the next couple of days, I'm sure you were quite popular. Everyone's asking you about meeting one of the superstars at that time, Pamela Anderson. That's awesome.
And my first celebrity sighting, and she looked amazing. It's she glowed. It's like, it's the weirdest thing. They just have something about them, these celebrities. Yeah, she was such a star, looked, was super nice in person. And yeah, we met Pamela Anderson, which is pretty cool. But after that appearance on the Tonight Show, I thought this would be like a one and done thing. I did not think this would happen again. And I remember Jay Leno invited me back and was like, do you want to come back on the show in front of the audience? And I'm like, yes, yes. And I was like, wow, I think I could do this for the rest of my life. And
So
that's when I realized, like, this is what I want to do.
absolutely. And how long after that first appearance did you go back on Jay Leno? Or when did things really start going for you and appearing on all these television shows and all these awesome opportunities to give your animal show?
Yeah, that's a great question, Michael, and I'm so happy you asked it. So after the Tonight Show, I was on cloud nine. Like, I was on cloud nine and thought, oh, this is great. My career is going to take off. I'm sure Animal Planet's going to be calling any second. I can't wait to get back on Leno. And this was my first taste of rejection. So it actually took me 3.5 years after my first Tonight Show appearance to get back on the Tonight Show. And I remember my producer telling me that it was so hard, like for a normal civilian, like the chances of getting on a second time on Leno was like 1,000,000 to 1. And it was so hard because I was like 14 years old. I would follow up with the show every few months. There were times when they were like, okay, like, are you available this day? And do you think you'd be a good fit with John Travolta? And it's like, sure. Like, and then you'd be like, we decided to go a different direction. So it took 3.5 years after appearing that first time. And it took persistence. It took never giving up, because there were times when it was just like, oh my God, like, is this ever going to happen for me? And I appeared back on when I was 17 years old and I had just graduated high school. So my whole high school career, but I ended up getting back on the Tonight Show. And it was, yeah, like I said, a fantastic experience.
Well, I think that shows a lot about your personality, a lot of grit and resilience, and how you've been able to stay, you're passionate about it. So obviously that helps fuel your fire. But I think that shows a lot about, how driven you are about these animal shows. So
Yeah.
who are some other celebrities that you've met doing these animal presentations?
So we were on with Samuel L. Jackson, which is like a legend, right? Snakes on the Plane, which I know that's not his finest work. He probably would like laugh if that's what I remembered him by. Oh, do you have the Marvel?
Yeah, we got Nick Fury right here behind me.
Oh my God. Yeah. So Sam Jackson.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, he's such a cool dude. He was so cool. And I remember, yeah, we met him. I was right out of high school. And when you graduate high school and you're a senior, like, you think you are on top of the world. And once again, I was like, oh, this is great. My career is going to take off. And I remember Sam Jackson, like, the first thing he said was, you better go to college, boy. And I'm like, oh, like, okay. Like, it's like not really what I wanted to hear. But anyway, but he was a super nice guy. So we had met Sam Jackson. I appeared on Leno the following year with Mark Harmon from NCSI, which was really cool. And then after the Tonight Show, I continued my television career on the Today Show, and which, the Today Show has been amazing. And I appeared on the Today Show when I was a sophomore in college. So, and once again, the Today Show, 3.5 years to get on the Today Show. And you think being on the Tonight Show that they'd be like, come on. And nope, not the case. Like, I swear to God, it took forever to get on the Today Show. But once again, never gave up and just continued to do local TV, continued to try to build my TV resume. I hosted a local public access show here in Idaho. I got to work with a variety of different animals, continued to do animal presentations at schools and libraries, which we still do, and continue to hone in that skill and continue to never give up on that dream.
So you've just mentioned tons of different shows you've done. No, you're good. I'm just curious, what have been some of your favorite ones? I'm assuming the Tonight Show, the Today Show, Late Night Seth Meyers.
Oh, yeah.
So would those be some you consider your favorite opportunities to talk?
Yeah, Leno was amazing because you would get I think 7 to 8 minutes. I look back at the segments and because I'll do like I'll do like, do people do flashback Fridays anymore? I don't know. Every year I'll like post a clip of when I was on Lino on the date, and I look back at the segment and think, oh my god, they let me talk forever. It's like 8 minutes long, right? They don't do that anymore in TV, right? So Lino was great. I had a lot of time. It was amazing. We got to go to California. They put us up, and I mean, it was just such a good time. Jay Leno was an awesome celebrity. He was so friendly. He met you before the show. It was great. The Today Show has always been one of my favorites. It's New York. It's more fast paced. It is like, I mean, and the Today Show is just the pinnacle of like morning TV. Like it's so iconic. So the Today Show is one of my favorites. And Late Night with Seth. I mean, Seth Meyers is such a cool guy. Such a nice guy. And it's weird. I've ran into Seth a few times outside of Late Night with Seth Meyers, which is so crazy. We've been on other shows together, but Seth is a really, really good guy as well. So honestly, all of them have been amazing. And we've worked with, I mean, I guess to go back to your question on some of the celebrities we've worked with, Tyra Banks was really cool because that's just like, Tyra Banks, right? She didn't like animals, but I mean, she was terrified of everything, but Tyra Banks was really cool. We got to do a segment in front of A-Rod, and the biggest, like, I don't usually get starstruck really anymore, but this one I was starstruck for. I did a presentation in front of Jennifer Lopez and her mom and her bodyguard, which was like the biggest man I've ever seen. The former First Lady, Laura Bush, Megyn Kelly. We've done, I'm trying to think, a bunch of celebrities during these shows.
So it's so tough to answer this question, but when you're in front of Pamela Anderson, Samuel L. Jackson, Laura Bush, what are the reactions like when you bring out like a snake or a lizard or alligator? And do you ever get nervous when you're presenting these animals to such famous individuals that, oh my God, what if one bites?
Oh, yeah.
What if one acts out of line? Like, is that constantly a concern in your mind?
Yeah, well, especially with Laura Bush. She was the former First Lady, and she still had Secret Service with her. And they didn't even tell me she would be on the show, except the morning of. And Secret Service, it's weird. Like, I remember when she entered the building, my producer is like, okay, she's here. Don't look behind you. Like, you have to go into a separate room. Like, it is crazy. And I remember during the segment with Laura Bush, she was so nice, but she was so posed. Like, she was so presidential, like her posture was just, it's weird. It was like she was made for this, right? But I remember during the segment, I had like touched her shoulder because we had a bird fly a dollar bill to her. And I remember I like touched her shoulder and saw the corner of my eye, like Secret Service kind of like go up like this. And I was like, oh my God, like because I'm kind of a touchy person. And I was like, okay, probably shouldn't do that again. But, honestly, it is my responsibility when you do these segments for the safety of the Today Show hosts, which are super famous in their own rights, and the celebrity guests. So we'll usually bring on animals that aren't going to be super dangerous, something like a bird that can fly to them, or something like they could touch, like the tail, or something they could feed. But safety is a number one concern, because if something happens to those celebrities, I mean, my goodness, like sure. No, that would not be good. That would not be good at all.
So in talking, a lot of people have mentors and inspirations. And I'm assuming for you, Steve Irwin, Crocodile Hunter, Jack Hanna, guys like this, how do you use them as inspiration? And do you think about them when you're trying to decide how you're going to do the presentations of your shows? And how do they motivate you?
That's a great question. I love Steve Irwin. Jack Hanna, grew up watching Jeff Corbin, huge fans of their work. And I think early on, I definitely studied their style on how they presented animals. I think what I've learned, because as I've been in TV for like 19 years now, which is actually a really long time, and it's weird because now the majority of people know me from my online social media stuff. Like my wife the other day was like, I bet like more than half your TikTok audience doesn't even know that you've done like the Today Show or the Tonight Show. Like it's just a complete different world and a complete different generation. But early on, I would study them, but I found that you need to be your own person and you need to be authentic to yourself. And so I learned that you can't completely try to act like Steve Irwin. You have to have your own style. You can't be exactly like Jack Hanna. So I think being authentic and being who you are was the key to success on TV as well. But early on, 100%, like watching Steve Irwin, that enthusiasm, that, absolutely he inspired me like crazy. But I remember even my first Leno tape when I had my baby alligator and I was like sending my audition tape. I remember Leno, they were super like, they were very adamant on like, okay, you're good, but you're being a little too crocodile hunter like you need to kind of just be more of yourself. And so I always remember that. So I
Hmm.
definitely look to them, but I have my own style of presenting, which I think is key.
Sure. Who are some other mentors or heroes in your life that helped shape your life?
I loved watching a lot of the BBC documentaries. I love watching like Big Cat Diary was awesome. Jonathan Angela Scott, their work's amazing. National Geographic, Derek and Beverly Jobert, this couple that lives out in the African wilderness and documents lions and hyenas. I was really always into stuff like that. Mentors in the animal world like that. Sir David Attenborough. I mean, that's just he's such a legend, right? So that's amazing. So, and the cool thing is, I mean, honestly, having my podcast Animals to the Max, I've been able to talk to some of my heroes. So I've actually had Jack Hanna on my show. I've had Jeff Corwin on my show. I've had on Derek and Beverly Jobert. I just had on Jonathan and Angela Scott from the BBC's Big Cat Diary. So cool with the podcast, I've been able to talk to some of those heroes I grew up watching.
And you've taken full advantage of social media, whether that's through your podcast, Animals to the Max, your YouTube channel, Instagram. You're constantly posting things about your life and your passion for animals. What do you think your mission is with having your podcast and your YouTube platform? What are you trying to get across to your audience?
Well, I've always wanted to have my own TV show, and I always wanted to talk about animals and kind of be a voice for animals. So I think recently though I've realized kind of what my purpose is. Like I love animals, right? I'll always have my animals. I have a huge passion for animals, right? But I think my purpose is to honestly make people smile, make people laugh, maybe brighten their day. I feel like this world it can be so cruel and cold and there's so much negativity. So if one of my videos can brighten your day, if one of my videos can change your perception of an animal, if maybe one of my videos maybe prevent you or your parents from killing a snake next time you see it, or maybe for stopping for a turtle that you could help cross the road, or maybe you could look at some of the animals I feature and realize that they aren't these big scary monsters. My alligators are a huge example of an example of how I literally have shared their personalities with the world. And I have people message me daily and say, I never used to like reptiles. I never used to like alligators until I started watching your videos, and now they realize they have their personalities. And I think that's really cool to shine a positive light on animals. So I think that would be my goal: make people smile, educate them, and help them learn about animals. And maybe I could inspire young creators too, people pursuing their dreams, whether you want to be a creator or whether you want to work with animals. Maybe I could be that inspiration to realize like you can do this, and I'm still pursuing my own dreams. There's no way that I'm like, oh, I've made it. Like I'm still have so many goals I can't wait to accomplish.
Sure. So we're making people smile, we're educating, and
Yeah.
we're inspiring others.
Yep.
So you're talking about making all these videos and you have so much social media influence. What does a day in your life look like in terms of posting videos, and like, what do we have planned for today?
Oh, so today we have a chicken has stolen Ducky's eggs. So my pet Ducky laid eggs. And the drama in the coop is that Deborah the chicken has kicked Ducky off her nest. And we'll have an update with Ducky's eggs, and we will look at Deborah the chicken who has stolen the egg. So, and I want to say, Michael, like social media did not come easy for me. I was very late to the game. For years I only had like a couple hundred subscribers on YouTube. For years I had less than 10,000 followers on Instagram. And it just, once again, like with my national TV stuff, it took a lot of persistence. It took a lot of learning. It took a lot of trial and error. It took a lot of just dedication to find out what my audience likes. But a day in the life now is pretty busy. Every day I'm filming, I'm editing. I post a video every day. So once again, today I'll post that ducky video. I'm going to head out to the animals after my interview with you. I will do a live on YouTube for an hour. I'll do a live on TikTok. I'll answer fans. I'll film a cameo with Napoleon the emu. I will film more content. I will edit. I will probably come home and tweak my YouTube video coming up, my long form. Every day is packed with trying to film and prep content.
Wow, very, very busy. It's incredible.
Yes.
So one of the things I like to do on my show is what I call 7 quick questions. So it's 7 short answer questions about things we talked about or things we didn't talk about, just a chance to get to know you better. Is that okay?
Yeah, it sounds great.
All right. What is your favorite movie?
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park.
The first one, right? That's good.
Yeah, that's classic. Are you watching any of the newer ones or with Chris Pratt, or are you kind of settled on the older ones?
Oh, no, I love the new ones too. And we just watched, have you seen the trailer for the new one?
Yeah, it looks awesome because it has all the, it's got everyone from the Order movies back in it. Jeff Goldblum, Sam Neill, like it looks awesome.
I know. And it's so good. I saw that, I think during the Super Bowl or that day I saw it. I was like,
Yes,
it's going to be so good.
When I saw it too, because I think there was one during the Super Bowl.
Yes. And then they had, oh my gosh, the Raptors in the snow. Like, I'm so excited. And I can't believe it's going to be the last one though. Like what?
I don't know. You never know in the future, man. It seems like everything's always making a comeback. So maybe there will be more in the future. But
yeah, like what if there's a prequel? Isn't that what they do? Like before?
They do a lot of that.
I bet they'll do a before, like I'm sure they will. I'm sure.
They'll find something. So in those movies, you like, what's your favorite dinosaurs? Are we like the Velociraptor Blue, or what do we
Oh
like?
no, T-Rex all the way. And it looks like Sonny, one of my alligators. I see a T-Rex in Sonny, just, chubby little arms. Yeah, I see it.
So you've rescued so many animals. And I'm just curious, could you name a few of your most exciting animals that you've rescued in your life? That's a very tough question because you've done so many and, helped out so many animals.
Yeah.
What have been some of your most memorable, most exciting rescue experiences?
Exciting in terms of, memorable, exciting, like dangerous, or you just...
Well, I mean, you can take that route, or maybe you were just very excited to come in contact with this animal. Maybe you've been wanting to for a long time.
Yeah, I think one of them, way back in the day, I had an iguana named Scooter. He was a green iguana, and he came to me on a porch in winter. He was skin and bones. He had mites on him, so little parasites. And to see him recover from being skin and bones, and then to see him a year later on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno eating a banana was something pretty, pretty fulfilling. And actually, Sam Jackson fed Scooter. You can see the clip on YouTube, but Scooter grabbed Sam Jackson's, he was wearing like a jacket or something, and got his nails in the jacket. And Sam was like, "Get your nails out of my jacket, man." And I'm sure he, may have put a hole in Sam's jacket. But to see an animal like that is amazing. I think another one, probably Sonny, one of my American alligators, rescued him from a bedroom in Boise, Idaho. And he was living in a teenager's closet when I walked in. And I don't think the people are bad people. I think they had great intentions. It's just Sonny was, at the time, he was 4 feet. And you can't go to a pet store and get a tank that's going to fit a 4-foot alligator. They're just too big at that point. So, rescuing Sonny, rescuing one of my other alligators, Chompers. Some guy thought she would make a great anniversary present for his fiance, and that didn't work out. They broke up, and I ended up with this baby alligator. Some memorable ones out in the wild. Because we're out on the Snake River, I've rescued a few beavers, which that's kind of like a random animal to rescue. And unfortunately, the beavers didn't have happy endings. They had to be put down because they were so badly injured. But the beavers have been pretty cool. We rescued like a great horned owl that flew into our chicken coop once. I rescued a snapping turtle that was terrorizing an elderly neighborhood. Just a bunch of bunch of interesting stories and animals that stick out for sure.
And when I think about these rescues, like you mentioned about, the alligator growing too big, I think that a lot of people maybe have snakes and lizards and alligators as pets, and they don't take in account how much room these animals need to live a good quality life. Would you say that, like, what percentage of the time do you think when you do these rescues, it's because of someone can't take care of this animal and this animal's too big for their home?
Oh, probably like 90% maybe.
That's what I was thinking. I
90.
was thinking vast majority. Huh.
Yeah, and I think people start out with great intentions too, right? Like I think people like honestly, I just think people get themselves in over their heads. A big common misconception is that you could keep like a reptile in a tiny tank and it's going to stay that size. And that's not the case. They will continue to grow and they require specialized care. So I always tell people just do your research. And if you can provide a proper home for those animals, like go ahead and do it. But remember, it is a commitment. Like I've had my animals, the majority since I was 12 or 13 years old, and I still have those animals to this day. And it affected where I went to college. I couldn't just pick up and leave and go live a normal college life. It affected my social life. I mean, so you have to realize that there are sacrifices that you have to take when you have animals. I remember like graduating high school and looking into colleges, and all my friends were going off doing internships in Hawaii, swimming with dolphins and sea turtles, and I was stuck here. It's like I couldn't pick up, and so you have to realize that they're long lived, and you have a commitment. So just keep that in mind.
But that's a lifestyle you love and the lifestyle
Yeah,
you chose.
absolutely. It is the lifestyle I love, the lifestyle I chose, and it's giving me amazing, amazing opportunities. Absolutely.
And when you're talking about these animals, I mean, that's what's going on. I live in South Florida, so I'm about 45 minutes to an hour away from the Everglades. And I have iguanas. I saw like five this morning. So
How
you got iguanas?
cool.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. We were just in Miami
Oh, really?
last month, and then we went down to the Florida Keys, which they have like wild chickens, which I'm sure you know.
Yes.
Have you been to the Keys?
I was there literally less than a month ago. I took my mom on vacation. So she's listening to
Dude,
this. Mom, we're talking about us going on vacation.
were
But
we there at the same time? We were there in late or mid-January. That'd be so funny if we were in the Keys at the
uh
same time.
I think it was beginning of February. I think it was a couple weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. But
Yeah.
I live, where like Hollywood is in Florida. It's really close
Yep.
to Miami. So I live pretty close to there. So
That is so cool. Love Miami. Oh, it was great. Yes, and I saw my one. I saw a couple green iguanas. It was great. I did not have time to see an alligator, which broke my
oh
heart.
yeah.
But I have alligators at home, so I feel like
Yeah, of course. And I love alligators and I love crocodiles. And the Everglades is, from my understanding, the only place in the world that actually has both.
Yes,
And
and caimans too.
yes, that's right. That's right. And the unfortunate thing about the Everglades, though, is the pythons and people, like we talked about, who don't understand that these animals need proper care in their homes. And that's what's happened to the Everglades, is the pythons are just dominating the Everglades because people are taking them out of their homes, releasing them, and
Mhm.
nothing is killing these pythons. So they're breeding amongst themselves and destroying the habitat there. It's very unfortunate, but
Yep. Yep. And those are the Burmese pythons you're referring to. And they
yes,
have other invasive pythons too. There, they have a bunch of, I mean, Florida has everything. You are
yeah,
like a hot spot for people to release your pets. Folks, do not release your pets.
yeah.
But
Do
yeah, the
not.
pythons. Yeah. What are you going to say?
I said, do not release them in the Everglades. Yeah, that is the
No,
release.
no. And they do like python hunts, but I know it doesn't really affect the population. And in my professional opinion, I don't think they're ever going to be able to get the pythons out of the Everglades.
No, I kind
No.
of actually. I mean, I'm not a professional, but I was thinking the same thing. I think it's only going to get worse, probably.
Yeah, I mean, the habitat is just so similar to the habitat in Southeast Asia. They don't have a lot of predators. Once they reach a certain size, they even eat alligators.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've been to the Everglades, as you know, it's a perfect, it's like a swampy habitat. It's like, it's so, I mean, so much vegetation, and it's perfect habitat to hide thousands of Burmese pythons.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go. I got my next question here for the 7 quick questions. I know we talked a little bit there, but it was
Oh,
enjoyable.
sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I loved it. So, if you could interview anyone on your podcast, Animals to the Max podcast,
Hmm.
who would you like to talk to?
Terry Irwin or Bendy or Robert, and I'm at the point where I'll take second cousin. I have been trying to get the Irwins on my podcast, Animals to the Max, for years. And here's the deal. They get back to me. Well, not them personally, but their people get back to me, but they are so busy and they're very, very hard to book. But the Irwins for sure. And I will get them on. It will take persistence, but I promise I will get them on. I would also like to interview Dr. Jane Goodall. Her work with chimpanzees is amazing. And I just sent her team an email last night to try to get her on. So Sir David Attenborough would be really cool too. I mean, that would be the top of the list too. But I think one of the Irwins, because they're just so iconic and the animal world. They're just Steve was such a legend.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about animal legends right there. All of those names.
Yeah. What about you? If you could interview anybody?
Well, I mean, it's so funny. I was about to say this. If I could interview anyone, man, I'd love to talk to Troy Polamalu because I'm from Pittsburgh originally, so I'm a big football Steelers fan. I'd love to talk to him. Anybody like Arnold Schwarzenegger, that'd be really cool too. But it's so funny because I actually don't feel bad because I got rejected by the Irwin family as well. I sent them an email and
you did. Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah,
See?
Well, no, I mean, my podcast is so much smaller than yours. I have full confidence that you'll be talking to them shortly, but it's going to take me quite a long time if I ever want to.
That's so cool that you reached out, though. I mean, and you took the initiative. Some people would never even take the initiative and be like, meh, yeah, that's great.
I take a lot of initiatives. I just don't land a lot of. I just don't land a lot of them yet.
Yeah, no, you will, dude. You will. I promise. I promise you will.
Persistence, right?
It's persistence, 100%. And get a big guest, and you'll just persistence. It will pay off.
So I'm curious. A lot of people have spirit animals, like they consider certain animals their spirit animal. What would you choose as your spirit animal?
Man, I don't know. That's a really good question. I love hippos, but I mean, does that mean my spirit animal is this big, overweight mammal who eats and likes to lounge in the water? Killer whales are really cool too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe like a killer whale. I don't know. Alligators are cool too. Dude, that's a really, really good question. It's between a hippo, a killer whale, or an alligator. How about that?
Combination of all of them, maybe, huh?
Hey, let's do that. Yeah.
And my last question I have for you is you've rescued so many animals. Is there one animal that you have not had the opportunity to rescue and help out yet that you've always wanted to come in contact with and rescue?
Not rescue, but possibly work with in my personal collection, a Gila monster or a Mexican beaded lizard.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I believe, Corbin, enough today. You have another guest with us, and you're
and he's here. And he's on a heating pad. Come here, little dude. Hey, come here, Mr. T. Yep. So let me show you. Come here. All right, Mr. T. I want you to meet Michael. Okay.
Hello, Mr. T.
Yeah, and I know this looks like a hot dog. Audience, this right here is a blue-tongued skink. And this is one of the largest skinks in the world. And the crazy thing about these skinks is that they have long snake-like bodies and then tiny, tiny, tiny little legs. Check out those little legs. He looks like a giant hot dog with legs. And this is cool. Isn't he cool? This is a lizard and he actually has a little bit, it looks like a little bit of food on the side of his mouth. But this is a lizard found in Australia, and they're called the blue-tongued skink because they have a bright blue tongue that they'll stick out to intimidate predators. Topaz came to us a couple years ago, actually out of Seattle, and his old owners unfortunately did not know how to take care of a skink. So he's actually missing all of his teeth, and he's missing parts of his toes because his old owners did not give him the proper humidity. So once again, I'm sure they had great intentions, but now Topaz can't really eat solid food. So we blend up his food like grandma and grandpa, and which, by the way, I've done that joke before at a nursing home and it does not It did
It
not.
doesn't work well, huh?
No, it wasn't good at all. People are like, "What are you talking about?" as they're eating their Jello. So he eats a blended up gecko food, and we'll feed him actually some organic wet dog food to give him some protein. So, and that is Topaz, one of our
Wow.
hands-on animals we will use for our shows.
Gorgeous. Well, it was a pleasure to meet you, Topaz. I mean, wow, I was going to ask what his diet was like, if it consisted of, I used to have a leopard gecko, so I was curious if it consisted of mealworms as well and like crickets and things like that.
Yeah.
But
So he doesn't eat mealworms and crickets. He actually like I said, eats that blended up crested gecko food, which I'll like a powder, I'll add water to it, and then I'll give him organic like a beef pate, and I'll just mix it up for him.
if
So
you didn't have to mix up though, what would their diet look like? Like if you didn't
oh
have to make
yeah.
gecko smoothie.
Oh, a gecko smoothie, which I've tried before for a video.
Yeah.
So oh yeah, it's not that bad. But well, not with the dog food. That's pretty gross. I tried it before the dog food. So he would eat greens, so like collard greens, kale, feed him hard-boiled eggs, pinky mice. I think people do sometimes feed them insects as well, and you can supplement them with a organic pate like dog food.
Perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you very much for showing him. I appreciate it. That's awesome.
Absolutely, yeah, and he could hang out just with. I mean, well, actually, come here, Mr. T. I'll put Mr. T back on his, back on your heating pad, huh? He has such a cool personality, and it's cool to like when we do these live shows in person for people to meet Topaz, and kids like to hold him, and he can't bite or harm anyone because he doesn't have any teeth,
Sure, of course.
Oh, come here, Zoe. Sorry, my dog just walked in too.
Oh, you're
Zoe,
good.
you and Mr. T. Oh, sweetheart. Anyway, so all
So
right.
that was awesome. Thank you.
Of
And
course.
we talked about your YouTube. We talked about Animals to the Max podcast, your Instagram. Where else can people follow you? We have corbinmaxey.com. We got the
Yes.
awesome shirts. You got Team Chomper
Team
t-shirt.
Chompers. Yes. And Team Sonny. TikTok. Are you a TikToker?
Man, I used to, but no, not really.
Oh, TikTok.
I had to delete it. I was spending like a year ago, I was on it too much. I spent too much time, so I had to take that out of my life.
Yeah, TikTok. So much fun. I love TikTok, and we have a pretty nice following on TikTok as well. So you can follow me on TikTok. We are on Facebook. Our Facebook following's growing. So if you're a Facebooker, check us out. And YouTube, I mean, all the social media platforms. We're on Cameo. So if you want a special shout out, 100% of the proceeds go back to the animals. So definitely check us out. And yeah, my podcast, Animals to the Max, available for free. We have over 200 episodes. And if you're into animals or you're into the behind the scenes of people who work with animals, I love talking to experts around the world. And I'm a huge, person who's into like, how did you get your dream job? I love the behind the scenes stuff. I like to pull back the curtain and get more of a raw idea of how people secured those dream jobs working with animals.
Sure. And we talked a little bit. We have a busy day planned today, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. But what else do you have coming up in the near future?
So content creation, I want to get my platinum YouTube plaque. I think it's 10 million subs, right? So
Something like that, yeah.
I think it's a platinum. I would love to be able to do that. I would love to continue to film content daily. We have a children's book in the works, actually, with Sonny and Chompers, which I think could do really well. I think also focusing on merchandise, more merchandise. We just got hats. Hats are coming with Team Sonny, Team Chompers, and we're going to look into some more merchandise, but just trying to expand the brand and continue to live out my dream. I would love to travel and, go. I mean, I really want to go to Africa so bad. I've been a few times, but I'd love to go back. And so fingers crossed we'll be able to make that happen.
That makes two of us. I've always wanted to go to Africa, South Africa, Egypt, Morocco. I'd love to just so much to offer all over the country there.
So much.
Continent.
Kenya's awesome. Yeah, I would recommend Kenya, but I would take any African country, honestly.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for talking with me today. If you're listening, if you're watching, go on his website, check out the shirts, check out his podcast, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everything. Give him a follow. And Corbin, is there anything else you want to add? Or are we okay to call it a day?
I think we're okay to call it a day. I just want to thank you for having me on your show. And it's so nice being able to talk about myself. And I know it sounds horrible, but I'm used to asking people on
Oh,
my podcast about them. And as a
word.
host, you don't usually talk. So it's weird being able to like talk about myself for almost an hour and and you listen. So thanks for
Yeah,
listening to me ramble on. And I just wish you the best of luck.
I loved it. Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank
day.
you. Thanks.